God created you and me in His image for a relationship with Him. And that means that certain principles of relationship that work between human beings also apply between us and God. Because God's a person. Tomorrow, August 26th, will be 47 years of marriage for Beth and me. And this is an illustration, so hang on. We've never been, from the beginning until now, we've never been so happy with each other. After all these years, I can tell you with a certainty that's been refined in the fire that relationships work when relationship is about ministering to the one you're in relationship with. See, if I'm in it for what she can do for me, then I'm ripping her off. I'm just a user. And eventually, if I'm just ripping her off and I'm just using her, if I'm just in it for what she can do for me, then that's abuse. And eventually she'll start shielding herself and we won't have unguarded intimacy between us. But if I'm in it to bless her, if I'm in it to minister to her, then she reflects it back to me. Her shields come down and we start learning things about each other that we could never have known before, even after 47 years. The same principle applies to our relationship with God. How can I become more intimate with God? How can I become a worshiper who's in it to minister to the heart of God? Am I ministering to Him or am I a user? You know, am I just trying to get something from Him? Is that why I'm in it? Am I in it to get blessed or am I in it to bless Him? And if I'm in it to bless Him, then by the basic principles of relationship, He'll reflect it back to me. And I'll learn things about Him I never saw before. He already knows everything about me. Isaiah 56, verse 6. This is just kind of a out of context passage, but when I say out of context, there's a whole context of who the Lord is going to gather. But this is what He says. I'm emphasizing my ministering to Him point. Also the foreigners who join themselves to the Lord to minister to Him and to love the name of the Lord, to be His servants, everyone who keeps from profaning the Sabbath and holds fast my covenant, even those I will bring to my holy mountain and make them joyful in my house of prayer. And so what I'm saying here is just like in any relationship, when you're in it to bless the one that you're in relationship with, then that one then blesses you. God responds by giving joy. I'll make them joyful in my house of prayer. They come to minister to me, and I will make them joyful in my house of prayer. In the New Testament, after Jesus had ascended into heaven and the Holy Spirit had been given on the day of Pentecost, and the church had spread north to the city of Antioch, you get this in Acts 13, verse 1. Now there were at Antioch, in the church that was there, prophets and teachers, Barnabas and Simeon, who was called Niger, and Lucius of Cyrene, and Manaen, who had been brought up with Herod the Tetrarch, and Saul. And while they were ministering to the Lord and fasting, the Holy Spirit said, set apart for me Barnabas and Saul for the work to which I've called them. So here's the point. They were worshiping, ministering to the Lord, that's worshiping, not in order to make something happen. They weren't praying for God to move. They weren't praying for revival. They weren't praying for church growth. They were worshiping, ministering to the Lord, blessing the Lord, and then fasting as a sacrifice to God for God's sake. And as a result, God spoke and they heard Him. You want to be more intimate with God? Here it comes. So again, do you want to hear the voice of God more clearly? Become a worshiper.